Good evening. My name's John Bryan. I'm with The Objective Perspective. Tonight, I want to talk about something that's heavy on my heart. We all have been watching, the world has been watching, as the United States involvement in Afghanistan comes to an end. A very violent, very tragic, very gut-wrenching end. I just got up from praying and interceding on the behalf of the people that are left behind in Afghanistan, as my heart breaks for them and the environment that they are left to deal with after 20 years almost of the United States being an occupying force in their country. My heart is full of many emotions and many types of feelings in regards to what we're seeing and what we have been seeing over the last 2 decades. What I'm going to say today is going to be brief, and it may be upsetting to some, but I want everybody to know that's listening to this. My heart is pure. My heart is open tonight. I'm being vulnerable with you, but I do not mean any disrespect to anybody. Although I will say, I always have been one to give respect where respect is due. And that means also disrespect where disrespect is due. On 9/11/2001, the world watched as our country, the United States of America, was attacked in New York City, in Washington, D.C. And as a teenager, I watched it happen. And like everybody else, I was distraught, I was scared, I was worried about what was to happen next. 3 years later, I was able to vote for the first time. And I gladly voted to re-elect George W. Bush. The reason for that is because I was still full of revenge and anger. And I wanted to see those that caused these things to happen to us pay, and pay dearly. I attempted to join both the Army and later the Air Force to do my part to go and deal judgment upon those who would kill our innocent people, our civilians who are on their way to see loved ones or on their way to work or at work on that tragic day. I was not able to join the military for a couple of different reasons. And I spent many years, very nearly 2 decades, regretting that I was not able to join. I wanted to go, and I wanted to deal judgment, and I wanted to deal fire, and I wanted to make those pay that caused these things to happen to us. I supported the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan because I believed it was the right thing to do. How else do you deal with those who murder your countrymen? On 9/11/2001, like everybody else, I felt like my family had been killed and betrayed and violated. I didn't know anybody on any of those flights or in the Pentagon or in the World Trade Center. But I felt like each one of those people was family to me. So I felt what you felt. I still feel, as we approach the 20th anniversary, I still feel the pain and the agony that we all felt that day. And so I supported everything that President George W. Bush enacted in order to strike back. I even wrote him a letter, and I thanked him for his courageousness and his tenacity and his determination. And I told him in that letter, as a young man, I don't remember what year it was that I wrote that letter, probably in 2003 or 2004. And I told him that I appreciated what he did. And I urged him to stand fast. And he wrote me a letter in return thanking me for reaching out. And I don't forget that he told us when we started that war that it would not be an easy war, and it would not be a quick war, and it would last for a long time. And at the time, I think we were all willing to take that risk and take that responsibility. But my, so much has changed. 20 years later, almost, here we are. The war in Iraq is over, by all accounts. And President Trump promised that we would be out of Afghanistan by sometime this year. And I was very thankful for that. You see, like everybody else, I have grown weary of war. My children, my oldest of whom is 11, has never known a United States that was not at war. Indeed, most of my life we've been at war with somebody. So we are all tired of it. And I have long been a proponent of getting out of the wars, and not only the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but our policing efforts all over the world. Our country was not founded to be the world's police officers. We are not designed, nor do we have the right, to be in other countries making peace for them. It sounds like a noble cause. And I think we all, as good neighbors, believe that we should help those who are unfortunate and cannot help themselves. I completely understand that. I am a compassionate person. And I have the utmost agony when I see citizens of other countries that are suffering under tyrants and suffering under poverty and starvation. It breaks my heart. But as a nation, we cannot be continuing to insert ourselves into these conflicts, into these regional wars, and trying to prop up our form of government. That is simply not a sustainable model for a government to be, and certainly not something that the taxpayers of this country should have to cover for an untold number of years. And so I'm grateful that we are ending that chapter in our nation's history. I don't think we need to stop at Afghanistan. I think we need to be able to pull out of the majority of the places where our troops are stationed. It is difficult in the 21st century, I understand this, for us to completely be isolationists. We cannot probably bring all of our troops home, every single one of them, abandon every base that we've had all over the globe, because those places, many of them will be overrun, just like we've seen happen in Afghanistan this week. And those that wish to harm the innocent and those that wish to fill a power vacuum will do so. They'll be a threat to many people. Untold thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions would die if we brought our troops home all over the world. But that needs to be our ultimate goal, is to slowly withdraw and allow governments to either succeed or fall. And I don't speak on this from any kind of military expertise. I'm not going to pretend like I'm not an armchair general. I'm not going to pretend like I know the answers to all the questions that surround our national security. That's not why I'm here. But I am an American citizen, and I pay taxes, and I love this country immensely. But we cannot continue this pattern of installing so-called democracy around the world, propping up puppet governments, overthrowing regimes. It's not working. All you have to do is look at our own recent history and find out this is a poor model for us to continue to follow. It's disturbing to me to see this trend continue. There's an old saying that's been attributed to many different people. But it says those who do not learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And a follow-up to that is those that do study history are doomed to watch those who do not follow it. Which means that no matter what we do, if we study history or we don't, we either are doomed to repeat it or we're doomed to watch others repeat it. So the answer to that is we all need to study our history. And we need to remember where we've been and where we've come from. That's why it's important we don't need to be erasing vestiges of an era bygone because we simply don't agree with the things that happened back then. These monuments, these statements, these books, these evidences of places that we've been in our history serve as a reminder to us. Some of them as a memorial, some of them as a method of honoring those that have come before, and sometimes it's a way of remembering where we've been and where we never want to return. I place a lot of blame on this debacle in Afghanistan this week on President Joe Biden. Now, there's been a lot of people that have been throwing blame his way, and I don't want to jump on the bandwagon. I'm not a Fox News watcher. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat either. I'm not going to play party line politics, and I'm not going to throw stones and point fingers. But as the President of the United States, this falls on him. And he can blame Trump's policies, and that's fine. I'm sure some of Trump's policies contributed to this. But when the United States military pulled out under fire of Saigon, Joe Biden was in government. And the United States military pulls out of Kabul under fire, Joe Biden is not only in government, he is our president. He did not learn from his history. And if he did learn from his history and is allowing this to happen because he doesn't care or because he wants the same outcome as we saw in Vietnam, then he's worse than I thought he was. But I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and say that he's forgotten where we've come from. And now he is repeating those failures of our history. And we owe it to the people of Afghanistan to have done this the right way. Many of them probably wish we were never there. Many of them don't know in Afghanistan didn't involve the United States being there. And there's a whole generation of children and young adults that never have lived except under American occupation. Some of them, I'm sure, have resentment about that. And others have lived the best life they'll ever live. Because when we're gone, that place is going to hell in a handbasket. And even worse so for those that are believers in the one true God. Those that put their trust and faith in Yeshua Messiah will very soon meet him face to face. And that is why my heart breaks. Not because of where they're going or because of what they'll soon be able to experience in heaven, but because of what they're going to be facing before they get there. And so I've prayed this evening for their deliverance and for the judgment of their enemies. The Father's will be done. But I've prayed for them because my heart breaks. My heart breaks because we deserve judgment here for the things that our Christians have allowed to happen on our watch in this country. We deserve judgment. And I don't know, they may deserve judgment over there as well. But those Christians over there will be soon facing death and torture and worse, simply for believing at the hands of their enemies. So, my heart breaks tonight. And my heart breaks for the servicemen and women that sacrifice so much that their country asked them to sacrifice, only for it to be thrown away. And this is the part where I don't want to mean any disrespect to anybody, okay? If you served in the military for any length of time, but especially during this time of war in the Middle East, you have all my respect. And you have all of my honor that is due to you. You, sirs and ma'ams, are the heroes. But you should have never been called upon to be there for as long as you were there. You know that. I know that. Your country knows that. But your president and your government has thrown it all away. It had to end at some point, but we could have done it right. And we threw it away. So on behalf of everybody that will never apologize, I say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what you had to go through, the sacrifices that you made. For the Gold Star families, I'm sorry for your sacrifices. Your sacrifices are not forgotten, even if your government forgets you. It's forgotten our history, and it's forgetting you. And it's leaving our allies over there out to dry. And my heart is saddened, and it breaks. So now my challenge to you, you servicemen and women, you families who have sacrificed so much with your loved ones over there, and for you American citizens who don't have any skin in the game, so to speak, in the conflicts over there in Iraq, Afghanistan, and other places across the world, I have a challenge. And I challenge each of you to remember this next time you go to vote. I'm not going to get all political party here, but just remember, Republicans got us into this war. Democrats have kept it propped up. And a Democrat has caused this tragedy that we're seeing today. Republicans are to blame. Democrats are to blame. But this is not about throwing blame around. This is about remembering what got us here and how we can make sure this never happens again. We need to stop voting for war hawks and warmongers and those that are greedy, that wish us to get us involved in conflicts and wars for the purpose of padding their pockets or increasing their power. I challenge you to do a better job of vetting who you vote for. And when these politicians get up to ask for your vote, and you go to the town hall meetings, or you go to rallies, find a way to ask them the hard questions. Call them out in front of their constituents and in front of their supporters, and ask them the hard questions and see what they say. And remember that many of these politicians are snakes in the grass. They may give you the right answer, but look at their track record. Look at their history. We have to stop propping up these little mini dictators that wish to continue this mad cycle of war and bloodshed and greed. It's wicked. It's evil. And I don't care if they're Christians. I don't care if they go to church, if they pray the rosary, or if they are religious. They are doing the work of Satan. They are allowing him to control their life. Yeshua did not come to bring war. Oh, he did say that war would follow. And he did say he came and turned father against son and mother against daughter. He did say that would happen. But that is because the world would turn against his children, his followers. But we are not called to be the ones starting the wars. And we are not called to be the ones perpetuating violence and war and bloodshed. That is not for us to do. And I'm going to make one endorsement right here and right now. We are looking at, in Arkansas in 2022, we are looking at electing a new governor. In my last video, I spoke about our governor who is going to be term limited and will never be able to run for governor again. So we are facing a whole new crop of new candidates for this position. One is our current Attorney General in the state of Arkansas. Another is the daughter of a former governor who was also the spokesperson for Donald Trump as president for a short while. Another is a Democrat we know not much about. And then there's another one. Someone that I've come to know and someone that I've come to understand as a good man. A man of God, a man of principle, a man of peace. A man who, like Ron Paul, the great Republican who is a libertarian in his mindset, who advocated that we should not go to war unless it is a direct defense of our nation's security. Not going over to another country and propping up a government that mirrors ours, but true defense of our borders and of our security. And one who called for the ending of the Fed, and one who called for revamping our social system. A man who, like Ron Paul, simply wants to make Arkansas be a bastion of freedom. Now, I may not agree with everything that he says or does, and he definitely doesn't agree with everything I say and do. But this man challenged Arkansas's son, who was our darling when he ran for Senate for the first time a few short years ago, Tom Cotton. This man challenged Senator Cotton and gave the best showing anyone has ever done, challenging Cotton as an incumbent. And this man is now not going to be challenging an incumbent. He is going for the seat of governor, for a seat that is vacant and wide open. His name is Ricky Dale Harrington Jr. And he didn't pay me to say this. He didn't ask me to make this video. But I am urging you, as an Arkansan, as a lover of liberty, and as one who is disgusted by our foreign policy in America, we need to elect somebody in this state of Arkansas who will stand up to the government that we have in Washington, D.C. Yes, we need to elect good senators and good congressmen that will stand up to Washington, D.C. But we need a governor here who has our best interests at heart and who wants to see Arkansas succeed and thrive under liberty and end this cycle. Now, our governor has no involvement in whether or not we go to war. I understand that. That's Congress. But we have to begin to elect people who believe like Ricky Dale Harrington Jr. and people who believe like me. And I know that may sound narcissistic and that may sound very egotistical, but all I want is to be left alone. All the people in Afghanistan want is to be left alone. All the people in China want is to be left alone. Now, I'm not talking about the governments. I'm talking about the people. People want to be free. People want to be safe, but they want to be free more than that. In America, we've come to value safety and comfort over freedom. But that's only because we've always known freedom. If we lose our freedom like they did everywhere else in the world that is suffering under a tyrant or under a ideology that would rather kill you if you don't comply, until we become like them, we won't value our freedom. But they do. And we need to safeguard our freedoms. And we need to safeguard our sanctity of life. Because once it's gone, it's going to be hard to get it back. I love you all. I love America. I love Arkansas more. But I love this country. And above all, I love our Creator and our Messiah. And we need to be spreading His gospel, spreading His love to the uttermost parts of the earth. We are called to spread His gospel, not the gospel of the United States, not the gospel of capitalism, the gospel of democracy. Although I do believe democracy, and even on better form, republicanism and capitalism are the best forms that we could have. It is not our duty nor our obligation to spread those throughout the world. But it is our duty and our obligation to teach God's law and God's word and the good gospel of the Messiah to the uttermost parts of the earth. So if you are not a believer, I urge you to put your faith and trust in Yeshua Messiah, Jesus Christ. But if you already have, and you already are a follower and a believer of His, reject this concept of war and this concept of nation building and toppling regimes, and embrace the gospel message, which is that God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in Him should not perish, but have everlasting life. And when we begin to believe that, and we embrace that, why would we advocate killing somebody else? I'm going to end now. I have so much more I could say. But my heart is heavy. And I pray that the Lord will avenge the souls and the blood of those who were murdered innocently and those who were murdered for His sake. Until next time, shalom, peace be with you, and always pray without ceasing. Good night.